We are all experiencing an unprecedented time in our lives right now. The level of uncertainty, anxiety, and fear can be overpowering as we learn to navigate in our new world, all doing our part, whether it be social distancing, staying home, and abiding by federal guidelines. There are so many on the front lines who are battling a war against an invisible enemy. Being on the front lines can place a person's physical and mental health in jeopardy. A team of professionals has come together and created a program called Resilient Minds on the Front Lines to bring tools, knowledge, skills, and instruction to assist in a time of need. This team is dedicated to helping those who help others. On today's webcast, our special guest speaker is Dr. Gabrielle Safalti, Professor of Psychology and Director of the Investigative Psychology Research Unit at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, City University of New York. Dr. Safalti discusses how resilience principles apply to everyone and how we are all first responders in our own lives. Your hosts for today's webcast are Master Resiliency Instructor Michael Pellegrino and Dr. Michael Wiltsey, a clinical psychologist and lieutenant for the Burlington County Prosecutor's Office.
Our team at Resilient Minds on the Front Lines is dedicated to bringing you 15 minutes of hope in a world turned upside down. The topics in our webcast are all meant to help those on the front lines help themselves and others. Today, Dr. Gabrielle Safalti talks about how resiliency is our ability to persevere despite obstacles and challenges we may encounter in our life. The great thing is that resiliency is a tool on our tool belt that can be learned. Resiliency is also important because it's linked to how we feel, how we think, and how we act. Be safe, be healthy, be resilient.
My name is Gabrielle Safalti, and I'm a professor of psychology and a resilience trainer. And I research ways in which psychology can help provide science-based tools that allow practitioners to be successful in their jobs. And one of those tools is resilience. Law enforcement and other first responders, those in the caring professions, and other professionals on the front line often experience high levels of stress due to the nature of their jobs. Having good resilience skills are key to withstand the demand of these jobs and to help protect the well-being of those who dedicate their lives to helping others. But resilience principles actually apply to everyone because we're all first responders in our own lives. We respond to adversity and challenges in our own lives, and we respond to the adversity and challenges being faced by those close to us in our lives. Resilience skills applies to all of us, irrespective of our job, because being resilient is part of being human. Resilience is our ability to persevere despite obstacles and setbacks, and it helps us recover from difficulties more quickly and with less negative impact. Now, obstacles in our lives are actually requirements for becoming mentally and emotionally strong, but the key is in how we handle those obstacles and use them to create opportunities for ourselves to grow. So resilience, it's a skill set for success and well-being. And the great news is that resilience can be learned. There are many benefits from having resilience skills. One of them is that we gain a personal mastery in handling adversity. The other benefit is that we recognize our already natural resilience and we get to amplify it and make it stronger. And resilient people do better in every domain of life, either at work or in their personal lives. We know that resilience is linked into how we think, how we feel, and how we act. And most of this is actually within our control. It's something that we can do something about. But what we do need are tools that can help us approach different situations. And we need to develop a tool set, if you want, and then be able to choose one that helps us in that specific situation that we're facing at that particular time. It's not always what happens to us that affects how we feel. It's also the interpretation of the situation that impacts how we feel and then what we do. When we talk about mental resilience, we often talk about mindset. Mindset is a set of beliefs or a way of thinking that determines our behavior, our outlook, and our mental attitude. And there are many different types of mental resilience tools. But what they all have in common are about how they can help us cultivate flexible thinking and reframe our thoughts so that we can choose a reality that is more useful to us and that serves us to grow rather than hold us back. It's about choosing to see stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Same situation, but a different way of looking at it. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at and what they mean to you actually change. So by cultivating flexible thinking and practicing reframing, it allows us a deeper understanding that we're active participants in our own lives. We actually have control over how we view the situation and how we then choose to approach that situation and what we choose to do about it. It's all about choice. And having that understanding makes us less reactive in the negative sense of feeling upset and out of control, and more reactive in the positive sense of being able to take control and do what is necessary to change our own lives. Emotional resilience is another resilience skill set. And again, there are many emotional resilience tools. What they all have in common is about how they can help us increase the positive feelings in our lives, as well as help us regulate and decrease the negative feelings in our lives. And by increasing positive emotion, we increase resilience. Social and spiritual resilience is a third resilience skill set. This skill set is about enhancing our engagement with our lives and our connection with others. And we do that by connecting and leveraging our strengths and our values and our beliefs. And there's two things that we talk about when we think about spiritual resilience, for example, or social resilience. The first one is purpose. Purpose is our overall sense of the goals and directions that we have in life. And it's very much linked to what we do. And the more this is linked in with who we feel that we are, what we feel that we're good at doing, the more we will feel connected to what we do. So instead of approaching a situation by always looking at what we're not doing well enough, we will want to improve the things that we don't do well. But if we approach it from a perspective during a time of adversity, for example, by what we know that we're good at and what actually energizes us, and we use those skills to approach that situation of adversity, it won't feel so hard. The other thing that we also look at is meaning. Now, meaning is different from purpose. It's actually our subjective experience of feeling that our life fits into a larger context and that our life has significance. Meaning then is basically about how we understand the world, and it's a mediator for making sense of events, and it forms the basis for how we choose to interpret events when they happen. And this is what can lead us to grow from our experiences of adversity. Physical resilience is our fourth resilience skill set. This skill set is about understanding the link between our bodies and our minds and our emotions. Very often we think about them as two different things, two separate things, but they are intrinsically linked. And some of the things that we deal with in physical resilience are things like sleep. We know that if we have an adequate amount of sleep, our brains work better. We're better able to make decisions, also because we're able to regulate our emotions more. And because of that, we will feel less of an emotional impact. So when something happens, something really big that upsets you, don't make decisions then. Sleep on it. And the next morning, things will always seem that little bit more manageable. The other thing that we look at is nutrition. We now know that our stomach is our second brain. And depending on what we put into our stomachs and how that nourishes our body, it actually has an impact on our well-being. Exercise is another one. All of these things are things that we deal with when we talk about physical resilience. I want to finish by providing a quick and easy exercise related to each of the 4 resilience topics we have talked about. Let's start with mental resilience. We can reframe to look at things differently when we look at how we approach situations. Try to be specific when you make a statement about what you're dealing with. Being specific is more easy to troubleshoot and find solutions for. So let's take the statement, I don't do anything right. This is very general, and it won't give us an opportunity to know what exactly it is that we need to troubleshoot. Plus, it will also make us feel terrible as it makes sweeping negative generalizations that applies to our whole life. So we need to think about a way of reframing that statement and make it more specific so that it is also more realistic. So we would move from saying, I don't do anything right to, I never do my job right. And you might even become even more specific and move on and say, I sometimes don't do my job right. Now we're adding the element of time. But you can even push it further than that. There are some parts of my job that I don't do right. So now you're being much more specific. And then the next step could be, my job requires many things that I have to do, and I do most of them right. You can then continue to be more specific as you further explore the process until you get to the point where you have identified the exact detail that you can usefully deal with. Once you identify the more specific detail, you can then more accurately target what to deal with. The second area then is emotional resilience. And here, what we try to do is to increase positive emotion. We know that negative emotions narrow our attention. This is why it's so difficult to make decisions when we're feeling something negative, because we can't see the situation beyond that emotion. Negative emotions also take our energy away. Positive emotions, on the other hand, broadens our attention. So the more positive and happy we're feeling, the more likely we are to be able to be creative and think outside the box. Positive emotions also give us energy. So an exercise we can do to increase positive emotion is to induce positive emotions. And we can do this by this simple exercise. Take a piece of paper and write down the start of a sentence, and then finish each sentence by thinking about how this applies to yourself. So you would start by saying, I am grateful for, I am amused by, I'm inspired by, I take great pride in, I feel hopeful when. By recalling positive emotions, you will instantaneously get a boost of positivity, which is an excellent way to start a difficult task. Third, we have social spiritual resilience. Here, we can look at identifying our values and lead with those. Our values and beliefs often represent the lens through which we view the world, and this lens influences the things that we find important in a situation, the emotions we experience, the kinds of questions we tend to ask, and the information we focus on, all of which can shape how we go on to act. So find a list of values, you can Google it and find one online, and go through the list and start looking for the ones you identified with. Then try to narrow it down to the top 5. Now this may take you some time to think about, but once you've narrowed down your list, try to find examples of how you have reacted to situations in the past due to your value system. For the future, understanding what guides us allows us to focus on how we want to approach a certain situation. And the more we align with our values and beliefs, the more likely we will feel that the situation is something that we can make meaning out of and handle. Finally, we have physical resilience. And here, let's talk about breathing. We have all experienced the physical effects of stress. We feel it in our bodies. We tense up. We often refer to this as our fight, flight, or freeze reaction, which refers to how our brain instinctually prepares our body how to react. Next time you're about to go into a stressful situation, or even if you're already in it, there is a quick technique that you can use to calm your body down. And if your body is calm, the situation will seem less frightening and less overwhelming, and you will be more clear-headed to deal with the situation at hand, which will make you feel more in control. So the exercise goes like this. It's a particular exercise to learning how to breathe in order to make your body relax. We say that there is a ratio of a 1 to 2 of inhale to exhale. So inhale fully for a steady count of 3, and then exhale slowly and steadily for a count of 6. And you do this 1 to 2 minutes. You will feel the effect within that time. And if you want to boost it, try also to let the tension go in your body on the out-breath, each time a little bit more, starting with your shoulders. Each one of these exercises provides an introduction to the types of exercises you would do to increase your resilience in the 4 areas that we've talked about today. In this webcast, We have gone over the 4 basic domains of resilience. We've looked at mental resilience, emotional resilience, social and spiritual resilience, and physical resilience. And we've talked about resilience being a skill set that can be learned. It provides tools that we can then have at our disposal for when we actually need them. And the more we use these tools, the more we actually strengthen our skills, and the more automatic they will become until they're actually part of who we are. Understanding that resilience are tools that we can learn puts us back in control of our lives, and it allows us to shape our experiences in line with who we want to be. Like we say in positive psychology, it allows us to show up in the world the way that we would like to.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Wiltsey. I'm part of the team here at Resilient Minds on the Front Lines. In this webcast, Dr. Gabrielle Safalti gave us a clear and concise definition and explanation of resilience. She also told us that resilience helps us deal with adversity. We also learned that resilience is a learnable skill and that we can continue to grow and develop our own personal resilience throughout our lives. Now, to do so, we have to hit the resilience gym, so to speak, and engage in exercises like the ones provided by Dr. Safalti to build resilience in the 4 main areas of resilience that we also learned about in this video: mental resilience, emotional resilience, social and spiritual resilience, and physical resilience. We learned that we can strengthen our resilience in these 4 areas by being more flexible in our thinking, increasing our positivity, connecting with our values, our meaning and purpose, and connecting our body and mind through breathing exercises as one form of physical resilience. We also learned that the concepts and tools of resilience are based on psychological science. Indeed, resilience is not new to the field of psychology. Psychologists, which I happen to be one, study the human mind and behavior, and psychology has been studying resilience for decades. Recently, however, resiliency is everywhere. And no wonder, because as Dr. Safalti referenced, it applies to everyone, all populations, all occupations, all humans, which I happen to be one of as well. Our human culture seems more ready to embrace building resilience today than ever before, as evidenced by the term popping up in discussions by our political leaders, executives, celebrities, and sports leaders. And it's wonderful because as a human culture, if we embrace these concepts of resilience, we build more meaningful and enjoyable lives for all of us. And when we face adversity, which inevitably we will, we are better prepared to make it through those difficult times and come out on the other side whole again. As one of my fellow trainers, Brian Martino, described it, I like to think of it as the comparison of holding an egg in one hand and a tennis ball in the other. If I drop the egg, it's going to fall to the ground and crack open, and yolk and shell is going to go everywhere. But if I drop the tennis ball, it's going to bounce back. Resiliency is the ability to bounce back. So as he would say, be the ball. Thank you, Dr. Safalti, for a very informative and foundational video on the definition of resilience and the specific suggestions on exercises to help us strengthen our resilience as a learnable skill. Be safe, be strong, be resilient.
During the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, your mental health is vital. Please see the resources listed here as well as on our website at onthefrontlines.us. You are not alone.